Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this one we are going to be improving Aya even more. So in the last video we improved Aya's ability to answer very simple programming questions, but then towards the end of the video we started thinking about the product from a more realistic point of view. Now, putting ourselves in the user's shoes, whenever they're on this video page talking to this chatbot, we know that they're not going to be asking strictly simple programming related questions. I mean, it's more realistic to believe that they may ask questions about, I don't know, maybe some people that they saw in the video, or maybe questions about the source code in the video, or maybe they're going to be asking questions to Aya about herself, like what LLM are you using, or what's your name, or what is your purpose? Who knows what the user may type into this chat box. Now, in order to give Aya the ability to answer these types of questions, we need to give her some more intelligence, some more information. So now what we can do is in our template, where do we start? Well, let's go ahead and open up our existing template in the playground, and let's go ahead and ask one of these questions. So for example, this is a question from Ian, one of the ones that we're going to be using in this example. And in here, this is a prompt engineering tutorial that he made about image variation. Now in this, let me see if I can get that screenshot again. Okay, so that's not me. This is me right here. So he used my image in this video. And by the way, this is just the variation of it. But anyways, the point of the story is, let's imagine that a user is on this video and they ask, who is the dude in this video? Well, right now, of course, what we're looking at is basically Aya's brain. And she doesn't know anything about any video. She doesn't know she's going to be embedded on the New Boston website. She doesn't know anything except for this right here and what is already in the LLM, all that information. So, of course, that's not going to work. Also, if we ask something like, what is your name? That's not going to work either. And I'll show you guys the other examples that we're going to try to figure out. So this is a C++ tutorial. If someone asks, what's the return value of this video? Or maybe someone asks in this video, what's the name of this class? Or maybe someone asks in this video, what is printed out in this first loop? Aya just doesn't have that information. So now we have to ask ourselves, what information does Aya need in order to be able to answer these types of questions? Well, the first thing I can think that would really help her out are the transcripts from these videos. So all of this text, again, she can't hear the audio, but what we can do is we can take this video, get the transcript from it, basically convert it to text, and then feed that text into Aya. Now, another kind of classification of questions that people ask a lot are about the source code in the video. So if we could also provide Aya with the source code, I think that would help a lot. So what our plan is in addition to this very basic system prompt, what I want to do is I want to provide Aya with the transcript of the video, and we'll say the transcript is going to go here. And then I also want to provide the source code. So let's just go ahead and see if these two things can answer some of these simple questions. And the first question that we will try to answer is, who is the dude in this video? Of course, the dude is me, but I'll say this, who is the dude in this video? All right, so before we convert this into a prompt template and add our variables right here, what I want to do first is I just want to manually stick in a transcript in some source code here, just to prove that this theory can work. And if I do provide Aya with this information, then she could potentially spit out more accurate answers. So for the transcript, this is actually pretty interesting. So OpenAI, they actually have this model right here, Whisper 1. And what it can do is you can give it an MP4 video and you can upload it and it can return the transcript of the video. So I have those 4 videos that I just showed you. The first one was prompt engineering, then Bucky C++ tutorial, then my Java one, then my intermediate Java one. So what I'm going to do in this example is I'm just going to give it this video right here, and I'll show you the transcript that it pops back out. So this takes about like, I don't know, 15 seconds or so. All right, I think that was a little bit longer than 15 seconds, but either way, you can see what it returns is the text from the video. And actually this is pretty good. I went over it and was just double checking, and it's pretty dang accurate. But either way, what I want to do first is I just want to plop this in where the transcript is going to be. And then the other thing that I want to paste in, which isn't going to help with this question specifically, but just to kind of show you guys the template I'm going for, in this video, I want to paste in this source code as well. So the source code for this is in this AI Playground repo. But for now, I'm just going to take this and inject it right here. Now, another thing that I want to do is I want to update my prompt. And let me just remove this sentence right here. You are vetted on a website that helps people program through YouTube videos. And this way I just want to give Aya some context of like where she is living in the universe, basically. So I want to say you're on a website, so if someone says like, hey, something about the website or a video, she doesn't get a little lost. So now with this extra information, I'm going to ask again, who is the dude in the video? Because I know for a fact, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it says, I probably recognize this person as Bucky. So now let me go ahead and send this request and check it out. All right, so now we can see that I was indeed able to give the right answer, that it was Bucky Roberts, that's me, and that information again came from the transcript in the video. So from here, what I want to do is, of course, go ahead and convert this to a prompt template. Now I can kind of just save the time here. So actually, let me just do this, maybe easier. So I'm going to copy this entire system prompt, and then I'm going to make a new template, and I'll say Aya video, and I'll paste this in for the system prompt. However, instead of hard coding this transcript, I'm just going to, first of all, change this to Jinja 2. And I'll say this is going to accept a transcript variable, which I'm going to be pasting in basically right here. And it's also going to accept a source code, little snippet that I'm going to be pasting in right there. And the last variable that we need, just like before, is we need the question from the user. Now, there's another thing that I'm thinking through that may help, and that is this. Kind of ignore this right now. You remember earlier when, actually I think this was the first video there, or the second video, and I said, what's the problem with this? And I said something like var equals 3, and I was hoping to get back the answer that it's missing the variable name and that needs a semicolon. However, Aya was a little confused because she didn't understand that I was asking it from a JavaScript perspective. She got confused and thought that I was writing Python, which admittedly, this does look more like Python than JavaScript. But either way, I think another good thing to help clear up some of that confusion is if we pass in the topic of these videos to let her know, hey, we're talking about C++, or hey, we're talking about a Java tutorial. I just think that would be better to give her more context or understanding of the problem. So with that, I will say this. Video topic, and let's just call it video topic. All right, so now whenever I use this prompt template, I'm gonna have to give it 4 variables: the topic of the video, the transcript, the source code from the video, and then of course the question, which is gonna come from the user of whatever the question is. Now, the last thing I wanna do is I just wanna go ahead and set the parameters for this. which you guys understood why I'm doing that from the last video. And now I just want to save this. So now we have this new prompt template. Now, how do we test it? Well, you guys already know this as well. And also, what I did before this video is I already made up this test right here. And I also see that I named it topic instead of video topic. So what I'm gonna do is just edit my template real quick to rename this topic just so I can keep everything consistent. Okay, so I'll go ahead and quickly talk about these. Again, there are only, well, how many questions do I have? 4 different questions. So the first one, like I said, is who is the person in this video, this prompt engineering video? And the answer should indeed be Bucky Roberts. The second question I'm gonna test Aya on is what is the return value of the main function from this video? And this main function returns 0, so that's why it's 0. Now in this one, the Java programming video, I said, what is the name of the class in this video? So the name of the class is indeed apples. It's the only class in the video. And for the last question, I just say what words print out in the first loop for the intermediate Java tutorial. And this first loop, it prints out all the words that start with FU. So funk and furry is the right answer. So funk and furry. So now that we understand the basic test that we're going to use, what I can do is I'm just going to go ahead and download that to a CSV. And again, this was called video specific questions. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a new evaluation. And I'll just name it video specific questions. And now for the data set, I'm just going to upload that data set that we were just taking a look at, video specific questions. And for the name, I'll just name it video specific questions data set. Nothing too fancy here. And this is the data set that I want to use with these 4 questions. So now I'm going to go ahead and select my data set, and I'm going to go ahead and create my pipeline. So now what I want to do is this. I'm going to add another step, and I'm going to be evaluating that prompt template that we just created. And for this, I'll just name it the LLM response as well. And for the prompt template, we're actually going to be using that new one called Aya Video. We'll just use the latest version. And now here, I just need to plug up basically all of these columns to say which template variables are they going to be connected to. So the question is the question. This is why I like naming my column names the same as the variable name in the template, because when you're evaluating, it's a piece of cake to kind of hook everything up. The source code is going to go here, and the topic is going to go there, and there you go. And since we already configured this prompt template to use, I can show you, University, Aya Video, it is already configured to use OpenAI 3.5 Turbo. That's why it's already spitting out these answers. And there you go. You can now see that with this extra context, with this added information, Aya is now able to answer this whole other slew of problems that she was unable to before. So very cool. And in fact, just to kind of walk you guys through this architecture, this is actually called a RAG architecture. What it basically means is before you send your prompt to the LLM, you're going to inject some additional information into it. So to show you guys a more realistic example of how this would work in the real world, what would happen is Aya is going to be living on my server that's running thenewboston.com. And of course, all of this data is going to be in some database, whether it's a third-party service or API. Basically, this app needs to reach out to somewhere else to grab this extra data. So let's just say that for the sake of simplicity, that the source code and all the transcripts from my video were just stored in my own database for thenewboston.com. So what happens is whenever this question comes in is what is the name of the class in the video, my app or Aya is basically going to say, okay, what video page are you on? Oh, I see you're on Java 7 video or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and get the transcript for this video in the source code. I'm going to inject it into that prompt template where those 2 variables are, as well as the topic of the video. and then I'm going to send this to the LLM. Now, the reason that this is called RAG, I really don't like the name of it, but it stands for, I believe, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Basically means you're retrieving some data, you're augmenting or changing the prompt by adding it to it, and then you're generating the response. So retrieving data, adding or augmenting, and then generating the response. Now, the reason I wanted to take some time and talk about this architecture specifically isn't because, I didn't think you guys could figure out how to pull data from a database and inject it in your prompt template, but more so to focus on how we are evaluating this prompt template. Because the way we evaluate it and the way we are going to use this in the real world are slightly different, and there's a reason for this. So we see here the real world usage is going to involve making an API call or basically doing something extra with some third-party service to grab this information. Now, in our evaluation, we aren't doing that. What we're doing is we're just taking the response data from whatever that API call would be and just hard coding it into our data set right here. Now, believe it or not, I'll actually show you this cool feature with Prompt Layer. So we don't have to do it this way. In fact, what we can do is we can make a custom API endpoint, and whenever we give it a custom URL, then what's going to happen is it's going to take all this data and throw it into that URL, and we can basically structure a custom API endpoint to set it up and respond just like we would with our production data. So it sounds like that may be kind of a better method for testing, right? Like, we want our test to simulate the production environment as much as we can. So why don't we go with this method instead of hard coding everything? Well, there are pros and cons to each. For one, if we were to use, I keep closing this thing and popping it back open, but if we were to use the actual API service, then for one thing, it's going to be slower because instead of just reading the data from here, we have to actually make some API call and get that data back. Another thing is that it's not going to be consistent. So for example, if our API ever changes and we say, hey, give me the transcript for this video one day, and the next day we make a call and get different data back, then our data set or our test is going to be changing. So then the prompt template that we're testing, it's not going to be giving consistent results because you're pretty much at the whim of whatever the API is returning. And the last one is just error prone, because if this service is ever down, that means that we can't evaluate our prompt template and we pretty much can't prove it anymore. So of course, those are the downsides of using this. However, it does have some benefits as well. First of all, if you're using the same response data, for example, if you have a test where you're testing on this one specific video and you're using this exact same transcript every time, well, instead of having that data in this cell, in this cell, in this cell, well, it will help minimize your data set because, you basically don't have to store this. You're just making a call for it. And the other thing that it helps with is maintenance. So for example, let's say that you transcribe this video and this was the wrong transcript. Let's say there's just, I don't know, it gave you an inaccurate transcript. And then you're using that transcript in a bunch of other cells right here. Well, if you updated the API to fix those results and it changed to give you those correct results, you either one, have to update this location, this location, this location, everywhere you have it, versus if you were just making an API call, you would then get those correct results back. So there's a lot of different trade-offs on how you evaluate a prompt template using RAG data properly. There's no right or wrong method, just understand that there are trade-offs between either one. Now, the very last thing I'm going to do before I let you guys go for this video is I'm actually going to do this for myself because I'm pretty lazy. So what I want to do is I want to add another column here to basically be the same thing as that score column as before. However, like I said, I'm lazy and I don't feel like going through each of these every time and doing 0, 0, 1, 0. I mean, I got stuff to do. So I wish there was a better method Well, I already have the answer right here, so I know what the correct answers are. However, the problem with that is I just can't do something like a quality comparison, because the LLM may respond with something that doesn't quite match this exact answer, but it's still correct. For example, in here, the LLM responded with the question, who is the person in the image? With the person in the image is Bucky Roberts. He is yada yada for educational content. Now, I also would have accepted the person in the image is Bucky Roberts. Also, it could have just said Bucky Roberts. It could phrase it in a bunch of different ways. And we just need to know, is this the correct answer, even though it may not be an exact match to this? So what can we do for that? Well, what we can do is hop back in here and we can create a new prompt template in general. And I will say that this is called Aya answer to Boolean. And in the system prompt, what I'm going to say is you are an AI assessment tool. Your job is to judge whether or not an answer is correct. And I will say that your response should be one word only, true or false. And then after this, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to give it the original question. And let me make sure I change this to a Gen 2 template. And then after this, in addition to giving Aya the question, I'm going to say that this is the provided answer, and I'll say provided answer, and then I'll have another one for actual answer. And I actually just want to change the order of these. And the reason that I'm going to change the order of these is just because in my report, I'm going to have the question as one of the earliest columns, and then the actual answer is like the middle one, and the provider one is going to be last, just for like organization purposes. So actually, let me take this and I'll actually throw it into the user message right here. All right, so the last thing I want to do is I just want to set these parameters so I don't have to adjust the prompt template, or excuse me, the engine settings in the report. And now let me go ahead and create this template. Beautiful. So now that I have this prompt template that we're going to be able to feed in a question, the provided answer, and the actual answer, and get back a Boolean, now what we can do is use this instead of me to grade these answers. So let me pop this open in a new tab. And now in my video specific questions evaluation, I'm going to add another step, and this is going to be the prompt template that we just created. So prompt template, and I'll just say assessment, or I'll say Boolean. Now let's do assessment. Okay. And then for this, it is Aya answer to Boolean. Just use the latest version. And now the actual answer is going to come from Aya's LLM response. This is how Aya responds. Now the question is just this original question. Actually, let me change this around. I got a little confused. Okay, so the provided answer is going to be Aya's response, and the actual answer is going to come from the data set. Yeah, I got this right. So this is the question. This is the actual answer, and the provided answer is going to come from Aya. She has to figure that out on her own, so that's going to be the LLM response. So now let me go ahead and run this step, and then we can see if my prompt template can assess these answers. So is this answer acceptable for this? And already it says no, and this is not correct. So let's go ahead and actually do this. We can do a little prompt engineering to fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and run this full batch and give it some time, and let's inspect the results of this. So the first thing Aya is going to do is answer all these questions to the best of her ability. And then what she's going to do is she's going to try to assess, is this answer an acceptable answer given that this is the real answer? Now the first one, she actually got it wrong. She said that even though she got the question right, the person in the image is Bucky Roberts. She says that no, this is not a suitable answer for this answer, which is Bucky Roberts, and it's not true. Same thing with this. The answer we were looking for is apples. She said the name of the class from the video is apples, but then when she assessed her answer to see if it was right or not, she said, no, that's not the right answer. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but there are a couple things right now that I'm noticing. Now, the very first thing is that Aya's response to these, they're just a bit wordy. Like, I'm just looking for Bucky Roberts. I don't need all this extra fluff. I don't need all these extra sentences. Like, just give me the answer in the shortest way you know how. Another thing is that these look like they're just wrong. Even though this is a little bit wordy, I should still be able to figure out that this is the right answer. So I'm actually going to make two adjustments here. The first one is to this template and the other one is to this template. So first, let's try to cut down on Aya's wordiness. So in here, university template, this is Aya video. I'm going to edit this and I'm going to say answer in as few words as possible. Okay, now I'm going to update this. And even though this is updated, I don't want to run the evaluation again because I want to make a change to that assessment prompt template before. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this without kicking off that other evaluation or test. And now the other change I wanted to make was this right here. So this looks like it's structured all right. The only other thing that I want to change right here is I want to upgrade this from 3.5 turbo and I'll use 4, basically just a smarter model. And now I'm going to update this, and now after I do, then this entire evaluation is like I'm good. So those were all the changes I want to make. Now after this, just go ahead and run this evaluation again, which were my video specific questions. Gonna confirm that, and when I do, we can go to the latest version, which now has GPT-4 enabled, and we can see if Aya does any better. So the first thing I'm curious about, okay, so this change is good. Instead of, all the extra text, it looks like these are a lot shorter answers. And yes, look at this. Not only is Aya's response getting better, more accurate, less fluff, but also her ability to assess these answers is getting better as well. And this is pretty cool because half of these were pretty easy. She got the exact same answer, but half of these are different than the answer, like the ideal answer. This one says the person is Bucky Roberts, or the person in the image, rather than just the name. And this one has quotes around the words, and still she said true. So yeah, a lot of information there. I think this tutorial was a little bit longer than anticipated, but that is pretty much how you would evaluate a prompt template using RAG data, and also having a prompt template assessment to save you a lot of clicking and manual assessing as well. So I don't know what we're going to be doing in the next video, but Aya's getting smarter, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. Looking forward to the next video. So I'll see you guys then.